Good evening. It is Monday, October 5th, 2020, 6:30 p.m. Kearney Board of Aldermen meeting. We'll call the meeting to order. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good job, Nolan. Thank you. You can go to the mom and dad. Good job. Good job.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Nolan. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Shirley, have you had a chance to take roll?
I have taken roll, and everybody is present. Dan Holt is present by Zoom, and you do have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Board will move on to the consent agenda. In front of you, you have the Board of Aldermen meeting minutes, the warrant bills presented for payments, and a few other items for consideration. Are there any questions or discussion on the consent agenda as presented? If there are no questions or discussion, can we entertain a motion to pass the consent agenda as presented? So moved.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The consent agenda passes. Under Mayor's remarks, before we turn it over to Shelley Daniel and Joanne with MoDOT, I do want to mention a couple of things this evening. As you would notice, I had a special guest this meeting. Thank you to Nolan for opening up the meeting for us and helping lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And thank you to Alderman Spencer and the Liz Ivy and the various volunteers at the Kearney Historic Museum. Had the pleasure of spending an hour with him over at the museum, and I continue to be impressed with our museum. A lot of good exhibits over there since the last time I was there. So if you've not checked out our city museum recently, I would encourage you to do so. So thanks again, Jerry. I appreciate that.
Thank you for the kind words.
At this time, we'll go ahead and turn it over to Joanne and Shelley with MoDOT. I have, based off of some meetings last week, I have requested these two ladies join us this evening and give us a project update on the I-35 and 19th Street interchange project. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Shelley Daniel. I'm presently the MoDOT design liaison that helps Kansas City District and the Northwest District. And I was also the former area engineer for MoDOT. So I know I've addressed the board several times on this project, and I was asked tonight to come and provide another update. I do appreciate the time and thank the mayor for the opportunity. So for the 19th Street interchange project, we're still in the right-of-way phase. We have acquired 3 of the parcels, but we have 5 remaining parcels, and those are from 3 different property owners. We have extended offers for all those properties, and all 3 of those property owners now have secured legal counsel, and we hope to continue to negotiate with them and to reach an administrative settlement. However, if good faith negotiations were to fail and we cannot reach that administrative settlement, then we will continue to proceed with condemnation. As everyone knows, the right-of-way acquisition is taken longer than was originally anticipated when we entered into the cost share agreement with the city. And this does have a direct effect on the project schedule. It is our practice not to advertise projects for construction until we have all the right-of-way cleared. And there are times that we can try to request special clearances from Federal Highway to proceed to construction without right-of-way. But on this project, the properties that we need are very critical for the next phase of work. And so that really doesn't make sense to proceed with the project without having the right-of-way acquired. So ultimately, the construction of the project is being delayed at this time. And it's pretty much our direction, and in talking with the mayor and the city, that it makes sense to have the property and know what the value of the property is, or how much MoDOT, how much we have to pay for the property. So we'll have a better idea on the total project cost, and that be able to provide a much better schedule to the public and to the city moving forward. Once we do have right-of-way, the next phase of the project will be utility relocations. We cannot move forward with any of the utility relocations at this time because the properties we don't have are critical for that work to proceed. We are evaluating the project and to see if there is any opportunity to do some of the utility work with the construction, concurrently. But it is critical, to have the property so we could start relocating those power lines. So most likely we'll have to get the right of way, and then utilities will have to proceed before a contractor can be very productive out on the project. So that was pretty much my update. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to address the board the best I can. And if I don't know the answer, I'd be happy to follow up with city staff so they could share that information with the board.
Yeah, thank you, Shelley, for that update. And as I mentioned last week, disappointed we continue to have delays, but I for one do concur, and obviously we can't move forward with a project construction when we don't have all the ground. We don't have it all, the acquisition of all the ground, and we certainly don't know the cost at this point, so that's dangerous in my opinion. Board, do you guys have any specific questions from MoDOT on the update we received this evening?
If we can't negotiate a price for these, and we have to go through the other process, how long are we talking about? How much farther is that going to push out the construction date?
And Shelley can correct me if I'm wrong, but the condemnation process varies. We'll go through the Clay County Circuit Court, and the courts are back up, but they're a little backlogged already due to COVID. So Shelley, do you think 12 to 18 months max for condemnation process, or is it much faster than that?
Well, I don't think, like you said, Mayor, that there's probably not an absolute date we could provide. We will, when we move the project, we're probably going to move it to late spring of 21 to begin with, and give this negotiation and process of trying to get a court hearing date set. With pre-COVID, once we filed a petition, we usually 2 to 3 months we would have our hearing date. But there is a lot of uncertainty with COVID, and across the state, we've had some counties not even hear condemnation. We haven't had an experience with Clay County. We hope once we file a petition that the courts will, do the due diligence and set a date, but that's uncertain. Once we have the hearing date, that's only the first step of the process. The judge would have to, appoint commissioners, then the land has to be valued. Then you have to, there's some time. It's in the state law, that I think they get 45 days to value that property and then get back with the judge. And then even after we possess the property, there's time for some relocations for anybody that still is on that ground to relocate their businesses or business. So it's really difficult at this time, you know, to say exactly how long it would take if we were have to go down that, you know, all the way through. We really do hope, you know, since, you know, some of the property owners are still, you know, asking questions and we're providing, trying to gather up information to provide back, that we'll be able to continue to negotiate with them to reach, you know, a administrative settlement. I mean, that's our goal on every project. There are projects that, you know, do have to go through the condemnation process. It's our hopes that, you know, that's not the case, but you know, there is a process in place for that if that's what we have to do.
Shelley, we would have to go through the expense of obtaining new opinions of market value. We cannot use the appraisals received for their original negotiation process. Is that accurate? You know?
You mean if you're in condemnation?
Correct.
Well, that process is prescribed by law, and I would have to follow up on any expenses, how that's charged against the project, but all expenses for, I'm sure, the court costs and everything would also be charged against the project. And that would be an expense based on how the project costs are today. That would be added to the city's right-of-way cost. I think that's accurate to say now, if I understood your question correctly.
Yes, thank you. Any other questions from the board?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, Shelley, you say that there's 5 parcels and 3 people. If it did go to court, would it be all handled at one time or would there be 5 different hearings?
Or I know our petition, it's our practice that we're going to file one petition for all the remaining parcels. So that's, I mean, it's just an efficiency for our staff and it makes sense. And that would just be the process that we go through. I mean, we're many months, you know, away from condemnation, and we do have a process where, you know, that's not where we're at this time.
Yeah, I'm hoping that didn't happen either. Just asking.
Yeah, thank you, Alderman Holt.
And Mr. Mayor, to point out, we also have right-of-way to acquire for the Nation Road roundabout, which we have not moved on. We've gotten, I think, 2 signed parcels, and there's 3 remaining parcels to collect there. And at this time, we're not going to recommend moving forward with that until we find out how the right-of-way goes.
Yeah, we need an interchange before we have roads up to it. Yeah, and I appreciate that, Jen, that reminder that there's the MoDOT piece of this project, but then also the city piece to it too. So 2 different sets of right-of-ways to obtain. If there are no other questions or discussion from the board, I do want to thank Shelley and Joanne for your time for joining us this evening, and thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
That concludes, my mayor's remarks, and we will move on to the administrator's report.
Mr. Mayor, we have Steve Casey and Larry Reynolds joining us by Zoom to recommend acceptance of the lowest and best bid, Mega Industries, who have the experience with parks projects and splash pads and experience working with the city. And they completed the Mac Porter Trail and the Prospect Street sidewalk, as well as being the current contract on Dogwood sidewalk. And this is for the Lions Park renovation and splash pad. The low bidder, Excel, announced that they omitted the prefab building from their bid at 60,000 plus item. And upon examining their subcontractor list, they had not listed yet a concrete supplier or flat work person, and thought flat work is
Part of the project.
part of the job. So, that causes us concern to recommend them. They are $34,700 lower than Mega. They came back and said, we'll do that, we'll include that prefab building, but I think if they didn't expect it to be in there, I think that really makes their bid pretty tight. And, so I'm not sure it truly is, a good bid to be recommending. So, with the Mega bid, and, a $50,000 contingency, that is recommended by the architect, that would make the project $1,266,000. Our budget was, $1.2 million, so, we're getting towards $100,000 over the budget, which isn't terrible. And we'll have Todd Goffey tell you how we're gonna make that affordable. But Steve, if you are on.
I am. Good evening, everybody, Mayor and Board of Aldermen. Just piggyback on what Jim had indicated, that we kind of go over what we've outlined in the memo, but as part of the packet. So our committees reviewed the construction bids. We were very pleased at the interest in the project. That's always something that I look at as a project manager and an architect. Got Larry Reynolds on here as well from Vireo, that's been working very diligently on the project. So we had on September 25th, we opened 7 bids. We had 7 contractors that did the project. We did an extensive review of that, did our due diligence. As Jim mentioned, we had some concern with the low bidder, Excel Constructors. They had omitted a significant portion of the bid, even though it was very clearly defined in the bidding documents. We also had some concern over their list of subcontractors and some deficiencies there. So we feel like as a overall evaluation, that we felt like it was an insufficient bid. We went to our second low bidder, which is Mega Kansas City Corporation, very highly reputable construction firm in the Kansas City area, one that Larry Reynolds and I have some familiarity with, the city as well, on numerous projects. Two important considerations here, and I think Jim had touched on it. One is their experience and ability to coordinate with other subcontractors that we'll be working with on this project to put the whole package together, specifically the playground and the splash pad, which we'll touch on here in a minute. Getting that underway and getting a resolution to approve and lock in those contractors that will be part of the project. So Mega has that experience. They have a lot of experience with park projects. And we feel like there was also some value added items in the bid, one specifically to substitute concrete over asphalt for the trails portion of the work and the sidewalks. And the reason for that we felt like that was a tremendous value added item, was it would be able to seamlessly work through the schedule of the project that's going to bring us through the winter months when asphalt plants and batch plants are closed. So allow them to complete and follow through on portions of the work, and we're not waiting until spring to finish some of those portions of the project. So we're looking forward to working with them. We have a recommendation, a motion to accept the bids and approve and enter into a contract with Mega KC. This bid amount also includes the 2 bid alternates that we had in the project, which were the amphitheater stage and the entry monumentation that would be at the corner of 2nd and Jefferson, where the Lions monument is on the corner. So we'll have a new entry feature there at the park. So with that, I'd turn it over to Larry or anybody else that has any questions.
If I may say something that Jim touched earlier, Mega has done trails for us in the past at Mac Porter, and that trail is well designed, it was well thought of, and is holding up really well. Board members, you can see in your bid packet the number of park projects that they have done. And as Steve mentioned, and Larry and Brian and I all concur, we think this is the best bid.
Eric, from memory, your experience working with Mega, did that project come in at budget or under?
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry, Randy.
Do you know, or if Jim or somebody else could answer, your experience you're talking about of working with Mega, did that project come in at or under budget? It sounded like there was concerns possibly with Excel about some overruns. I was just curious, since we have experience with Mega, if we experienced any cost overruns or issues in that regard.
It's a pretty, far reach back, about 10 years probably when
Okay.
we did it, but we can check it. I don't remember any remarkable changes, even though it was formidable circumstances that they were building on that park ground on Mac Porter Park. It has that gumbo kind of soil, and they had to make grade, and we worked with them, and I don't remember that change orders were a substantial issue.
Have we worked with Excel before?
Now, never have worked with Excel.
Okay.
But the Prospect Street sidewalk, there was, I think, some change orders, but it was additional work that was unidentified that there were.
They can't control that.
Can't control that.
Okay. Is there any other questions from the board before we pass it to Mr. Larry Reynolds? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Casey. Larry, the floor is yours.
I have nothing further to add other than to echo all the comments that Steve made. Really.
All right. If there are no other questions or discussion from the board or reports from staff, if we could entertain a motion to approve 4A. Jim, do you just need a
Motion to accept the recommendation to accept Mega
subcontractor?
subcontractor based on the memo and documentation provided by Steve Casey.
We will send this information on to Jeff City that we have recommended this bid if you do so.
Board, can we entertain a motion?
I'd make a motion to recommend, go along with the recommendation of Mega Kansas City for the park project.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Did Alderman Dan?
He said it.
I said aye.
Okay. Thank you, sir. There was some feedback there. Motion passes. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Todd Goffey is on the line with Piper Sandler, and he can explain the financing plan for Alliance Park, which would assume the revenue streams that are now paying for the museum and police station and some other purchases that will be retired in the future. Enclosed is a proposed resolution authorizing Piper Sandler to be retained as a financial advisor for Alliance Park financing at a cost of $7,500, and also as a resolution authorizing Gilmore and Bell to be retained as legal advisor for $10,000.
All right, thank you. Mr. Goffey, the floor is yours, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. Good to see you tonight. The financing mechanism, as Jim mentioned, is what we call a lease purchase financing, which is something that can be approved by board action. The payments that would be made on a semi-annual basis is subject to an annual appropriation pledge of the city. And that's how Gilmore and Bell is able to get comfortable with the legal document. In this case, the property itself will serve as the security interest in the lease financing. And the way the payments are set up, as Jim just mentioned, you have a number of leases that are beginning to fall off over the course of the next few years. And so while this will be a 10-year financing, the payments will ratchet up gradually over time as these existing leases begin to fall off. So when you look at this from an aggregate standpoint for the lease payments for all of the outstanding issues, the payments will remain about $200,000, which is just slightly more than what you're presently paying.
Are there any questions or discussion from the board to Todd? If there are no questions or discussions, can we entertain a motion to pass a resolution authorizing the city administrator to sign an agreement with Piper Sandler to provide financial services relative to Lions Park financing?
I make a motion.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Resolution passes. That require one reading?
It does,
Okay.
and there is a second resolution for the
Gilmore Bell piece?
Gilmore Bell piece. A resolution authorizing the city administrator to sign an agreement with Gilmore Bell to provide legal services relative to Lion Park financing.
Make a motion, we employ Gilmore Bell as legal counsel for the Lions Park project.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes as well. And I think it's about time Piper Sandler and Gilmore Bell start giving us a discount. All the business.
There's some volume business here this year.
I think so, volume business.
Mr. Mayor, we do have Steve Casey and Eric Marshall here to recommend the adoption of resolution authorizing agreements with the playground equipment supplier and splash pad contractor in order to lock in pricing. And that proposed resolution is enclosed receipt. And if Mr. Casey or Eric would like to say something good about these contractors and why you selected, who you selected.
Well, again, Steve Casey, Mayor and Board of Aldermen, pleased to be with you tonight. If you recall, I think it was probably back a month ago, we made a presentation to the board with an overview of where we stood on the project. Now, with the playground equipment and the splash pad portions of the project, we back in February and March went through an RFP process with a cost cap and a scope of the project in order to sort of design and install. It was kind of a turnkey proposal that we requested. We also got several proposals, which was good. And we had a committee that evaluated both the playground and the splash pad and made a selection based on the expertise of the firm, the cost, what was being proposed in terms of equipment. The two contractors we've selected, we feel very comfortable with. We feel like they will coordinate well with our general contractor. And so what we are doing tonight is bringing forward a resolution to enter into these agreements, contracts, so we can lock in pricing. Typically what happens is you'll see price increases at the end of the calendar year. So we're trying to get ahead of that and kind of lock in schedules also with these contractors. So we're bringing both of these proposals together under one resolution. Eric, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, just after we did the selection process and COVID took over, we went ahead and sent this information down to Jeff City with Patty to get these approved. And she wanted to know why, a couple of things, why we selected these firms, the Park Planet, and we sent the information, the response back with our selection committee that we did have, and with the grant people, everything has to be approved, and they went ahead and approved these. And then, as Steve mentioned, a couple of months ago, we came and gave you the overview of the selection of the actual Park Planet and RJR with the splash pad. So we want to get these locked in before the price increases, and I do believe they said mid-October there is going to be a price increase on the actual equipment. That's all I have.
Any questions, discussion from the board?
I do have a couple of questions. You did present it to us here a month or more ago, and I'm noticing in this, when I read through it, that ordering time is 1 day. Once colors are chosen, I was curious what colors you had chosen. And the second thing is, I know that you had said you were deleting the balance beam. I do note that that is not in the list, and that you were replacing the balance beam in addition to the couple of spring riders with a couple more spring riders. But I only see 2 spring riders here, a pony and a tractor. So I'm just curious what we're replacing the balance beam with and what toys will take that place.
Jerry, to answer your question, if I can go through my papers here, one of the spring riders that we went with, we asked if they had a train, as you asked us to see if they did. They did not. So Ryan and I chose a farm implement tractor, will be one of the spring riders. And then the other one is going to be, it's a whirl, it's a sit, and it's called a bucket spinner. That is the other apparatus. That way it was the 2 for the 1 without raising the price of the equipment any higher. So they were able to give us the 2 different pieces in exchange of taking out the balance beam. Is that correct, Rhino?
That is correct. In addition to that, the dual, I think they call it dual swing, which features the toddler swing along with the parent in one mechanism. The cost on that was a little bit higher than the standard swings naturally. And so between the 2 spring riders, the sit and spin, and the dual swing, that absorbed the cost of the balance beam.
Okay, so instead of the balance beam, we're getting the bucket thing, the spin thing, because the
Buckets.
thing was a little bit more expensive.
Correct.
Okay,
And then on the colors she asked about, are you going with the colors as presented in the images, or what colors?
The colors that we presented to you a couple of months ago are the exact colors that we are. It's the blue, blue and gray. It will be blue and gray, which will match with the recommendation of the splash pad with the multicolor with a bunch of blue in it as well. So
those
we
up
think
here?
the,
Yeah, they're back here, Jim. The boards are back in the meeting room.
Are
So
the
two
boards up
would
here?
Match is what you're saying?
yes, they are.
Perfect.
You need to see them again, Gary?
No, but thank you.
Are there any other?
You're welcome, Jerry.
Questions from the board? I personally, I can never appreciate the game of sign this contract, we're gonna change prices, but, I would hate to see prices increase, and I feel good about staff's recommendation. They spent a lot of time on this, and our consultant, Mr. Casey, spent a lot of time on this. So if there is no other questions or discussion from the board, we consider a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign 2 separate service contracts with Park Planet for the design and installation of the playground equipment and surfacing, and RJR Enterprises for the design and installation of the spray ground at Lions Memorial Park.
Make
So moved.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passes.
Thank you very much, board.
Thank you,
Thank
board.
you, Mr. Casey.
Thank you, everybody. Looking forward to working on the project.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Concludes my report.
We have no public requests or petitions. We have no public hearings, and we do have an item of old business to discuss this evening.
Mr. Mayor, we have returned with an amended ordinance that removes section 700-120, the question, that section that we had in question. We've never utilized it. It unnecessarily complicates our fees, and we just soon see it removed entirely. So again, our fees are for the second meter. They were established in the year 2000, and they have inflated beyond the cost of parts. A second meter is typically set for irrigation purposes only. So it's a very narrow thing, and we just recognize that parts are more than $600, and if we think $900, that's what the chart shows, and we think that is a fair adjustment to make.
Any questions or discussion from the board on the proposed ordinance?
I'm glad to see the language cleaned up and to see the cost brought up to today's cost.
No reason why we should be supplementing a second meter when we're helping them out. So it's good to see.
If you would prefer, if you want me to place on the first reading,
By title only, please.
an ordinance amending chapter 700 of the municipal code pertaining to secondary water meter fees.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Second reading by title only, please.
An ordinance amending chapter 700 of the municipal code pertaining to secondary water meter fees.
Make a motion, we approve on second reading.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hold the board, please.
Alderman Spencer,
Aye.
Alderman Holt,
Aye.
Alderman Lehman,
Aye.
Alderman Barker.
Aye.
Votes unanimous, Mr. Mayor.
That concludes old business. We have no new business to discuss this evening, and we'll move to Alderman discussion. Alderman Spencer?
I have nothing.
Alderman Holt?
I'm good.
Alderman Lehman?
I'm good.
Alderman Barker?
I have nothing.
Besides rocking that nice Chiefs mask this evening. That's great. Well, that concludes Alderman discussion. We do have an executive session meeting publicly noticed this evening. Closed session is discuss legal matters per RSMO 610-0211, legal actions, purchase or sale of real estate, hiring, firing, disciplinary, or promoting a particular employees by a public governmental body when personnel information about the employee is discussed or recorded. Do we consider a motion to go into executive session?
I make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Take roll, please.
Alderman Spencer,
Aye.
Alderman Holt,
Aye.
Alderman Lehman,
Aye.
Alderman Barker.
Aye.
The vote is unanimous, Mr. Mayor.
7:10, we will enter into executive session, and once that session is concluded, we will return to the public session.